Hello, and welcome to the Legendarium Green Team. I am your host, Stormrunner, and I am joined today by Kyptan,
Heyo.
BefuddledPanda,
Hello.
and Spooke.
Hello.
Today we will be discussing Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn, Book 1 of the Thrawn Trilogy. We will start with a non-spoiler section, and we will give a spoiler warning before heading into spoiler territory. Here are a few things to note before we get into the book. So it was published in 1991 and was intended as a sequel to Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. With this in mind, there will be spoilers for the entirety of the original Star Wars trilogy. So episodes 4, A New Hope, Episode 4, A New Hope, Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, and Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Since we can't talk about the book without at least referencing the movies that this book is a sequel to. There will also be some minor spoilers for the prequel trilogy, so episodes 1, 2, and 3, as well as high-level discussion around the sequel trilogy for Star Wars. But this will mostly be just some terminology to compare past and present Star Wars media. So now with that preamble finished, what did everyone think of the book?
I had so much fun reading it. So I can also just give a little bit of my background with Star Wars. So I've never read a Star Wars book. This is my first one. I have seen all of the Star Wars movies, old prequels, new ones, all of them, standalone ones. And then I've seen some of the newer Star Wars shows. And or some of the Clone Wars animated show, but I haven't watched all of it, nor Ahsoka. So this is my first experience with Thrawn, and I've heard little bits about him as a character, but I really didn't know that much. So coming into this book, I had pretty good expectations because whenever I ask people where should I start in terms of reading Star Wars books, I'm always pointed to this one. So I was like, all right, it's not super high expectations, but I have decent expectations. And I had a blast reading this book. So I really liked it.
Sweet. I'll go next. I love the book. Kind of background for me in Star Wars is I grew up basically right when Phantom Menace released, kind of watching Star Wars. So I've been deep into Star Wars my entire life. I've read a lot of the books, but this is my first time really getting into this trilogy. Back in 2017, when the new Thrawn Trilogy released, I actually started reading that series and finished that series last year. So it's interesting for me reading the canon version of the Thrawn Trilogy and then getting into the now non-canon Thrawn Trilogy the year after. So it's overall really enjoyed this book. I love Star Wars, so this is just fun for me.
I'll go next. I grew up on the movies. They're some of my dad's favorites, and he passed that along to his kids. And growing up, I was like, movies are cool. I see these books in the store. They've got their own shelf. And it seems they've got the flashy covers and glossy spines. Yeah. And they have this cool little timeline at the front, which shows me how all the books fit together.
Uh-huh.
And I bought all of them.
Yeah, I've seen your bookshelf.
So you can answer all the questions later on about the Legends continuity.
I eventually fell off, but not before reading over 100 of these things.
Oh my god,
that's a lot.
About a third of all of them.
Right. See, I'm no mega fan. I might be in the high percentiles, but I'm nowhere near some of the people who put together Wikipedia.
Mm.
And
that's
but yeah,
different tier.
I can definitely answer a lot of questions about the early Legends stuff.
The expanded universe, if you will.
Yes. Which has been almost entirely declassified into Legends, which are no longer canon, but maybe pulled from.
Yeah, except for bits and pieces, they've decided to
recanonize. Yeah.
in mostly
And
inferior
you know what?
forms. but-
I much prefer the Legends, and I still live in that world much more than I do the more modern Disney canon. So I can be that guy. As for this book, I think it's one of the strongest of the Legends. I've got some other ones that I put up there, but I was a little bit surprised, honestly, on this reread how far it's fallen in terms of writing quality from what I expect from a fantasy or science fiction trilogy these days. I have changed as a person. But also, some of the later books in the Legends universe really start to build larger story arcs and larger pieces of character continuity. And this is still a very early work
Yeah.
in the Legends canon. And so maybe I'm judging a little harshly because it got so parts of like the characterization got so much better. But I'm here for what this is. It was fun. It was a nice little romp. I gave it 4 stars. I might be tempted to give it 3.5, but that's harsh. So 4 is where I go.
Oh, fun. I would probably not be recording this if it were not for Star Wars. That was my I can't conceive. I don't remember a version of my life where I didn't know what happened in the original trilogy. Like I saw them when I was
Oh,
4
wow.
or something. Yeah. So, um, so I grew up with Star Wars, particularly initially the original trilogy and then the prequels. So it's been an integral part of my life in terms of my enjoyment of various media and getting into science fiction and fantasy more broadly. I have been following it mostly since then, and I've read some of the Legends stuff. Not a ton from after Return of the Jedi, so I don't have a huge reference point for that. I would say I still, by virtue of they are no longer producing Legends things, and it's all same canon now. I mostly live in the Disney world now, begrudgingly. I think largely we can maybe get into that later, but yeah. So that's high level my Star Wars history. I enjoy this book. I think it's a very fun sequel to Return of the Jedi. I wasn't like totally wowed by it on this reread. I think probably for similar reasons that Kyptan was just saying about not expecting a little more from science fiction and fantasy trilogies now. There really isn't a central narrative thread of the book.
What?
Okay, there is, but like and maybe it's because like, well, we can get into spoilers, but I didn't feel pulled along quite as much in terms of like, oh well, I have to like get to the next scene. But it very much captures the feel of the movies and the feel of the characters very well. And like that's probably the main thing that I would say I was looking for, at least in terms of this specific book.
Okay. So I think like of the 4 of us, Kip would rank as like a master Jedi in terms of fandom, and I would be a puny Padawan. Maybe not even a Padawan, since I've been a casual
Street
fan.
urchin?
Yeah, street urchin. You know.
No, if
just-
you've seen at least one of the movies, you're a Padawan.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that. I have to admit, like when I originally saw the original trilogy, I was like, yeah, I don't really get the hype. And then the prequels, I was like, okay, maybe it's a little more interesting. Yeah. But then this book, what I really appreciate about reading Star Wars was that I got more things that made this world, this whole universe feel more fleshed out. Like overall we actually got to see more of what the characters' motivations were and their thoughts, and also more nuances about the Force, and just more history told in a more succinct way. So for me, like as my first Star Wars book, really no complaints.
And I would wholeheartedly agree. I think when it comes to the movies, They're great. They're good movies. When it comes to the books, I believe they are what makes Star Wars special. Because what Lucas did was just give all of these authors free reign. Like, go write a book. Just do whatever you want. And like he set up this like universe that's so expansive, and he's like, "Yeah, go do what you want." And
He set up some proofreaders and a couple like continuity
Or definitely
managers.
parameters.
knowing Lucas, I don't think he did.
Well, actually,
No,
So-
he did.
they definitely did. They had to approve this manuscript for Heir, and there were definitely things that Zahn wanted to do, but they said no. And so I think what I'm impressed by is that Zahn was able to write such an enjoyable story and also contribute a lot more value and like depth to the Star Wars universe while working within this constraint of this is not his IP. And he had to adhere to, the what has been established, what fans have already liked about Star Wars. And then also like what he can and can't do based on what other media Lucasfilms wanted to do in the future. So and also he had to be careful what he did make up. But he did say that he got a lot of help from the material that West End Games came up with, where like they really fleshed out the different technology, the different like ships and all of that available. He was able to draw on to make his life easier. So
Yep.
that was cool.
That makes sense because Zahn dips his toe in the science part more than certainly the movies do.
Oh yeah.
I will also say that I had pretty much all of the early Star Wars games for PC.
Okay. Maybe you're like Sith level. I don't know.
I loved the X-Wing fighter series and the TIE fighter series.
Good games.
Yeah, fantastic. And they really did flesh out the capabilities of the ships and how dogfighting worked. And that persisted throughout basically the entirety of the Legends universe.
That's pretty interesting. Huh.
Yep. Oh, and there's also a publishing case to be made that without the commercial success of this Thrawn trilogy, there would be no more expanded universe novels. That it would have possibly stuck with comic books and little shorts. Trusa Bakura was technically the first novel, but it wasn't as commercial a success as this trilogy was. And Trusa Bakura is where I picked up Star Wars.
Oh wow!
Is that after Thrawn?
It happens like right after. Sorry, it was the first Star Wars novel like in chronology and publication before this one. But there's technically a prior novel that people prefer to forget.
Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
Oh.
I want to read at some point just because of kind of what it is, because it's a sequel to A New Hope, right?
It is. And Trusa Bakura is a sequel to like it right after the Emperor dies in the third movie. Like the New Republic with Leia like goes out to extend an olive branch to an Imperial colony that is suffering from an alien attack.
Interesting.
Cool.
Yeah. It's fun.
Because you brought up commercial success, Kip. This is my gripe with Star Wars fans, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I read the 20th anniversary edition, which has annotations by Zahn and his like editor.
Which I haven't read, and I feel like I need to.
I highly recommend it. It is very entertaining. Like, and honestly, at least for me, I thought it was very valuable for me to read like his thinking process and some of the history of what got included, what he had to change, etc.
With what you've shared, I agree.
Yeah, it's like if you want a special edition, like this is worth it. My gripe is the publisher didn't do the same thing for the rest of this trilogy because this book didn't sell that well.
Really?
And I'm like, how? Star Wars fans are like, at least, I don't know, stereotypically.
And they're in love with this book.
Yeah.
Right. That's surprising.
So if you are a Star Wars fan and you're listening to this, go buy the freaking book. and go petition that they do the same thing for the rest of the trilogy.
I'm pretty surprised by that because
Though I will also say that back when Heir of the Empire came out, it was like $5.
Yeah. I mean,
Like-
different era. Okay.
and I will say right now, in a lot of Star Wars fans will probably more just buy a lot of the Disney stuff, like the new stuff. But I also don't know have any sales figures on how the Legends books are still selling. But regardless, yeah, that should be the rest of the trilogy should be a thing in that format.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I'd love it.
If you need more reason to buy the new 20th anniversary edition, it has a new Thrawn novella included. There you go. Which I haven't read, but
Come on, fans.
Surprise! It's in the new Disney canon and has nothing to do with this trilogy. Anything else high level wise before we get into spoilers?
I think just like a general
Who would you
comment.
rec this to?
Yeah, like if you enjoy the Star Wars universe, like, you enjoy either the characters, you enjoy like the spaciness and adventures, and you're just like not sure about going further, whether or not you should dip your toes into the books, because it is intimidating. Like Kip said, you go to a bookstore and there's just like shelves of these books, and it's like, where do I start? Start here. Like this is a really low barrier to entry. These characters if you've seen the original trilogy, and it flows really well. It's a natural extension of that. So I would say if you're interested at all, just do it. Try it.
Yeah, I would agree. If you watched the original trilogy and enjoyed that and want more, and don't want to watch the Disney movies, this is a good good place to go.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And if you enjoy other like slightly pulpy series, give it a try.
It's a maybe not quite a weekend read, but it's a very relaxing read where you just kind of sit on your couch and
I don't know.
go through it.
I think it's definitely a beach read.
Yes, I was kind of thinking that.
It's so uncomplex. You're just relaxing and reading it.
Yeah. I had this book and I had Shadow of the Torturer, and do you know which one I kept going back to?
Shadow of the Torturer, a famously uncomplicated and not complexly written book.
But yeah, let's dive in.
All right. So spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so here is a somewhat brief summary of the book. So it has been 5 years since the collapse of the Galactic Empire and the death of Emperor Palpatine during the Battle of Endor. The fledgling New Republic is trying to establish itself as the most prominent governing entity, or to steal from one of my favorite Clone Wars scenes, the controlling interest in the galaxy. Grand Admiral Thrawn seeks to destroy the New Republic and enacts several elaborate plans to do so. He recruits Jerus Sabaoth, a clone of the Jedi Joruus Sabaoth, to aid him, in part subduing him with Isel Mari, lizards who create a field that suppresses the Force. Thrawn persuades Sabaoth to join him by promising him Luke and Leia, as well as Leia's unborn twins, to use for his own desires. As Han, Luke, and Leia seek to strengthen the New Republic's diplomatic ties with various planets throughout the galaxy, they are chased by the ruthless and efficient Nogri, who are attempting to kidnap Luke and Leia to fulfill Thrawn's promise to Sabaoth. They escape the various kidnapping attempts and have some complicated interactions with the crime lord Talon Karrde and his right-hand woman, Mara Jade, who themselves have complicated interactions with Thrawn throughout the book. Thrawn then attacks the Sluis Van shipyards in hopes of gaining more ships for his fleet, but is thwarted by Han, Luke, Lando, and Wedge. The book ends with Admiral Akbar presumably falling into a political trap and being arrested on charges of treason. Now, we can start with this. How do folks think that Zahn did with the legacy characters? So Han, Luke, Leia, and Lando in particular. And along these same lines, does anyone have thoughts on Han going straight and narrow instead of his former roguish ways?
Well, I think the last part was semi-inevitable if he's going to be close to Leia
Yeah.
a lot,
Yeah.
because she's a respectable princess at the heart of a burgeoning new galactic government, and she can't be associating with a criminal. He might have been pardoned for all of his previous crimes, but he can't just keep on committing new ones,
Yeah.
or at least not obvious ones.
I think that's the key, not obvious ones.
Maybe he's not on the straight and narrow. He just got better at hiding it.
The other people not on the straight and narrow certainly think he's on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, they're all worried he's a narc.
Which he kind of is.
Is he though? He doesn't give them anything.
That's true.
Yeah, it's not like he goes and reports to Akbar.
That's true.
I would say overall, I think Zahn did pretty good at still kind of capturing who these characters are in their essence. And that may just be due to me listening to the audiobook and the narrator doing a decent job at imitating the voices for
Oh wow.
the character. Leia's a little bit harder, but most
Is
of the
it like
male voices.
3PO doing Leia?
But yeah, I think as a characterization,
I will say I think they nailed R2.
yeah. R2 is a sassy little guy. But overall, I think it's great. I think we see the progression of kind of who they are as people. We see kind of Leia fighting with who she wants to be and who she should be, kind of that struggle that is inherent in a lot of Star Wars, I would say, where you're just fighting two forces at once. So
Mhm.
And we also see Leia's bravery in fighting for political change, which is something that we saw in the original trilogy
yeah.
and continues into this one, because she's not letting these extremely credible assassination/kidnapping attempts happen to her. And although no one really seems to take her seriously,
Yeah.
like on Kashyyyk, they have a momentary increase in her guard, and then they all go away.
Well, it was I think it was over
after
a
a
course
week.
of a course of a week or two. Which I mean, but to Zahn's credit, he did explain it.
Sure, he absolutely explained it,
And it
but
was
it out
believable.
of character.
I don't know. I mean, I bought it.
Okay.
Okay, the diehard Star Wars fans, especially the OG ones, don't kill me.
Okay.
I really thought from the original movies that Luke was just a whiny little. Okay,
Boy.
boy. Yeah, that's the word. I liked him so much more in this book, and
But
Han.
Uncle Owen, I was going to hang out with my friends at Tashi Station.
Yeah.
That's the only place they sell power converters in the whole galaxy.
And part of it is, the acting performances, but it's also the dialogue that they had and, the direction they were given.
You mean you don't talk like that?
Han in the original movies was kind of a one-note kind of guy, a character. Here there was a bit more depth and nuance, especially going from, the smuggler to
Leia's
become
only protector.
to being a husband, I guess. I would
That's how
say,
he would also describe it, I probably.
yeah. Although he didn't trust Chewbacca, so there is that. I would say one of my gripes about this is she's pregnant, and the lack of
With twins.
the lack of realistic concern. I mean, I don't really know how far along she is, but I feel like if it were a woman writing Leia, it would be a bit more realistic in terms of her pregnancy.
Sure.
I feel like they mentioned morning sickness once.
Yeah, like at the beginning to establish that she is pregnant with twins, she couldn't sleep, blah blah blah. Like, sure, but then like all of these adventure things that happen,
And,
I'm just like,
and she doesn't even have a prophecy protecting her from
right.
while her while she's pregnant.
So that one was a little iffy.
Who knows? Maybe she's the one to bring balance to the force.
Maybe.
Do it again. Just go around.
That's a can of worms we don't need to open right now.
No,
but-
the prophecy is ever golden. It can apply to every single main character in Star Wars from here to perpetuity. Maybe they're
And
the
they
one.
And they will apply it to every main character in Star Wars in perpetuity until it starts making the money. But anyways.
Yeah, but overall, like, I actually like the characters in this book. Those characters, this version of the characters, a bit more than the movies, except for
No,
maybe the
I think those are valid points. I mean, I think probably the biggest, if there's a singular biggest strength of the book, I think it is that it feels like a Star Wars movie. That like like if we're on an adventure, it's really corny. It like
Yes, it is.
I mean, half the dialogue is like directly lifted from the movie. So I mean, that's some of the work legwork was already done for him, but the characters do feel like their movie counterparts to me, very much so. I agree with you about I don't disagree with you about Luke in the original trilogy. I think there's a lot of validity to that. But he's instantly more thoughtful in this book.
Yeah.
In even his first scene with Obi-Wan.
And I mean, you could probably say, like, well, he was very young, in episode 4, and here now he's gone through a lot, he's more experienced, he's matured. I would buy that.
Yeah, like that is his whole arc, like in A New Hope, to be fair. But he also, it doesn't mean that you can't say he's whiny little boy.
I mean, he's 18. I he's very hormonal, so he's got a lot going on.
Yeah.
But not very horny in the trilogy. Well, I guess
We should have started with True Sakura.
one scene notwithstanding.
Love triangle with his own sister. What's not?
Yeah.
He didn't know.
Neither did George Lucas.
Yeah.
They had a connection on a deep level. They just didn't know that it was familial.
Right. Hey, that is actually
He feels
a
that
thing
force bond. Yeah.
in real life, okay?
Oh,
Like,
yeah, it
if
is. It's a
if
real
you
thing.
live within certain kinds of communities, you gotta do a genealogy check.
Iceland has a whole website set up to like make dating easier.
Oh my god.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
A government website.
It's government funded.
Yeah.
Impressive.
But yeah,
Most impressive.
this is weird little genetic fact. Who smells the most attractive to you is someone with a 50% difference in your major histocompatibility complex. Statistically speaking. And it's like this person has an immune system that's similar to yours, but also has increased diversification. You will produce offspring that are good at combating a wide spectrum of diseases. But you also share you can share about 50% of your MHC with your siblings.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and it changes when you're pregnant. It goes to the opposite.
Interesting. Okay.
Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah.
Well, this is a relevant topic for for the
for Leia.
movies. Yeah,
For
for Leia.
Leia and
Yeah,
Luke.
for Leia and Luke. To address the Mickey Mouse-sized elephant in the room, how does this compare to The Force Awakens as a sequel to Return of the Jedi?
I mean, it's a much clearer sequel as opposed to a reboot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Very much so.
Yeah, I would say the plot beats of this book is fresher and newer and different.
Mhm.
And But I did honestly, when I first saw Force Awakens, I really did enjoy it.
It's a fun movie.
Yeah, and it did expand the universe, like what you got to see in the universe a lot, and it was like new characters to
Yeah.
get to know. So
Yeah,
and
kind of.
better
The Force
graphics.
Awakens the Force Awakens feels like a lot of things happened in the middle, like between episode 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas this, it feels like, a few things happened, but like Leia's setting up a new government. Han
Yep.
is dealing with being married to Leia and like being part of that government. Luke is dealing with being the last Jedi alive.
Right.
R2 and 3PO continue their bickering.
And also, Zahn does more in the first 20 pages of this book to give us any sort of context for what's going on in the galaxy than the entirety of The Force Awakens does.
Yes.
And The Last Jedi, and maybe probably Rise of Skywalker as well.
And gives us rough numbers on the like decline of the Imperium in terms of star systems and territory.
Mm.
I think as a standalone product, The Force Awakens is a good movie. As
Agreed.
a sequel, you're just watching A New Hope with different people.
Also agreed.
It's true. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is why I think Heir to the Empire is a better sequel, because of everything that's been stated. We return to characters that we know, but they're progressed along their storyline, and we just kind of hop right back into comfortable shoes and get kind of sped up on things. But yeah.
And Lando even has a new mining project.
True.
Yeah. I actually learned more about Lando than anything else.
Yeah, he's on the border because he takes on legitimate like operations with shadier underbellies or shadier connections, and some high risk endeavors with cool technological solutions.
Actually, so some of my favorite bits in this book are like the conversations between Lando and Han, and also like how other people in the universe like view them, and like the stories they've heard. Their perception of them. That was really fun.
Also, a fun bit of the reference to how Han got the Millennium Falcon was a fun bit.
Oh yes.
Also, knowing that we later got the movie largely about that.
Yeah. In talking about the Millennium Falcon, I loved the fake Millennium Falcon.
Oh my god.
That was
Han knew exactly where to sabotage, and got to do it with the glee of a teenage boy.
I feel like that is one of the first. Well, I guess it's about kind of, but that's the first kind of weird dumb thing that Legends probably does. It's like, hey, it's just the Millennium Falcon, but it's not, and because I guess of course
it's a stock transport. Like it.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
a
common.
Corellian YT 1300. It's a fairly common transport out of the Corellian shipyards, which are a major shipyard in the Star Wars galaxy.
The author did not know that, okay, when he wrote it.
Yeah.
Also, probably neither did George Lucas, outside of the fact that I don't know. I'm sure there's notes about it in the script of like New Hope or something, but outside of like its designation, I don't think that. Yeah.
Yeah, the like notch in the front is supposed to be where it like latches onto cargo containers.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's how it's a freighter. Yeah.
So that's similar to how like hammerheads don't really mean anything until we actually see them used as hammerheads in later movies. Well, sort of later movies.
But yeah, and Han knows his ship if he looks at it for more than a half second, which he does and saves the day.
I mean, they did do a lot of modifications on it, so
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Those are fun conversations about Lando chirping at that.
Yeah.
Speaking of Han not recognizing his ship and things that happened after that, what did folks think of the punching? Did we enjoy the action scenes?
Oh, I did.
Think of the action
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. It like I felt the suspense and the tenseness. I think he lays it out really well in like I could picture it in my head. The way that he describes things, especially with like Luke and R2, their interactions, because you can't understand what R2 says.
Yep. You can get
and
a feel
everything-
for it, but
Yeah, but everything is like through Luke, how he reacts to what R2 is saying. I really
Yes.
enjoy that. And just the, I don't know, it was just, he builds up the tension really well. So I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I'd agree that the Luke perspective scenes in particular, the one in the beginning when he fights out the assassins, was good because you're in the head of being in Luke's head, helped him feel more grounded and what he's doing feel more grounded. And so you see that he's very competent, but that he's not invulnerable. And I think Zahn did a good job of illustrating that.
Yeah, and him, like, he is still newer to this, so he's like that struggle of trying to, recognize like what would be the dark side and how he should be using the Force, and reminding himself like the guiding principles for being a Jedi. Yeah, that
And
was
also
really helpful.
and also knowing, hey, I can just kind of do this saber throw and kill all these assassins because I can.
Yeah.
But it's also him, like, that being his last kind of
Oh yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
He's doing all he can
Yeah.
to just leave. But
Right.
it's like, okay, I can't. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I think in that instance he's
And it's great.
It's in that instance I think he's justified in its self-defense, but it's just kind of a funny.
Luke got some quick notes from Yoda and Ben, and then has to construct everything else on
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I will say for the punch-in, it's wild how well he does all the different types of combat that we do see, because we see sword fighting with the lightsabers, we see gun combat, and then we also see space opera galactic
Yeah.
command level. So I really appreciate how well he's able to mix around all of these different kind of styles that just are so entertaining to read or listen to.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah, all the stuff when they're on the Chimera Bridge in particular is really fun. Like with Thrawn and Pelion.
Yeah.
I'm going to mispronounce that every time, but
Though Pellion's expectations of what an admiral is like are really disturbing, quite honestly.
How so?
You're like,
Abuse?
just keeps waiting for them to explode.
He's waiting for the abuse.
Yep, he's waiting for the abuse.
Yeah.
because they all think Thrawn's Vader.
Yeah. I think that scene was fantastic too, where Luke gets away and Pellion's just kind of sitting there, just waiting, and Thrawn's like, "Okay, what happened?" Like a parent, like, "What happened? Tell me. You won't get in trouble, not for me."
Yeah.
So yeah,
But that's not to say that Thrawn, like, he is very good, and we haven't really even talked about Thrawn much in this episode. But he is very good at knowing when to use his like violence versus using more like psychological methods, and also drawing on loyalty. And so that there was that scene where they lost Luke, right? Because whoever was manning the tractor beam like didn't know how to react in that situation. And the way that he then used violence in that scene, because he uses it sparingly, it's more impactful. And the way that that scene is described, right? It's not gory or anything really graphic. It's what you don't see. But what you do see is the reaction, like how other people experience that scene. That was pretty powerful.
Yeah, he's still ruthless, but he's very calculating in when he uses that ruthlessness.
Yeah.
Did you know that the efficiency and efficacy of the tractor beam group had gone up since his little demonstration?
I noted that line.
Yes.
That was a great little detail.
Yeah.
He gets results.
And if you're curious, like this is another reason why you should pick up the annotated edition, because Zahn points out the different qualities that make up a good commander, using Thrawn as an example. There are 6 of them, except I can't find the first one, so really I only see 5.
But yeah, in that last battle, they're able to tractor beam a Star Cruiser into
Yeah.
position as a shield for their Star Destroyer.
Yeah,
And that was pretty awesome. They blast out all of its weapons emplacements and everything on one side, and then they just hold it locked in that orientation, and it allows them to regenerate their shields while taking minimal fire. It's a great little tactical maneuver that
Yeah.
you don't see, and it would be really hard to show it in a movie, at least in a Star Wars movie.
That's the type of stuff that I think the book excels at, is showing is the internal dialogue of the different characters does give you like a glimpse into, because like in the movies, the most we get of strategy is one-liners to signify like at a very high level what's happening, and like it's only like really significant things that get brought up, as opposed to this where you're actually getting details about the tactics, and Thrawn kind of relaying to Peleon what he thinks the enemy's going to do, and then you see how Thrawn's actions line up with his predictions and how they're correct.
I wonder is if the Hold'em maneuver would get more appreciation if it was written in one of these books than in the movie itself.
It looks really pretty.
Yeah,
it did look very pretty. I don't think so, because I don't think they'd let that happen in the books. I think the continuity editors would say, no, you can't do this.
Actually, you know what's really funny? Apparently the proofreader or the proof editor of Heir of the Empire didn't really know Star Wars, which, first of all, why would you put that person on this project? So, and this is, early 1990s, so computer programs were not that advanced yet. The proof editor had gone through the manuscript and changed every mention of stormtrooper to be 2 words.
Oh no.
And then when Timothy Zahn got the manuscript back, he painstakingly went through and changed them all back to be 1 word.
Oh my gosh.
Which today, like, it would be really simple, right?
I don't think they could control F the Stormtrooper in 1990.
Come on, this was in the 90s. They can do that.
Back then was harder. So anyway,
Windows 95 existed. Come on, Windows 3.1 definitely existed.
Zahn was getting paid by the hour, so it's fine. He's getting paid by the hour.
There's no way that's true.
Anyway, fun tidbit.
That's like Tolkien and dwarves.
I was thinking.
Oh yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, you just call him up. Say, hey, is this a mistake?
Is this meant to be this way?
I would assume after the first 3, the editor would have to realize, right?
Unless he thought the person writing this was just kind of dumb. I don't know. Anyway.
Okay. But yeah, Thrawn and his art.
Yes. Okay. Because I knew very little about Thrawn, and that's like the first thing that you learn about him. I was immediately intrigued.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, whoa, okay, this is not what I was expecting. And the way that Zahn writes it, the way that he reveals it was very effective. Just like, you're totally not expecting. I think the thing that you were expecting is because he builds it up, Thrawn, what Peleon has heard or learned about this Grand Admiral, this character, it's like scary and da 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 da, and so you're expecting something else, and then it's like the doors open and it's an art museum. It's like, what? Yeah, great job.
And if I'm remembering the scene correctly, there's a later scene where Pelion comes back in and it's empty again, right?
Yes.
Except one. And he's like, these are the only people to outsmart me. And that's why it's here.
Yes.
And then he says, oh, and I also demolished their entire planet.
Yeah.
But yeah, the effectiveness of art and how much it means to him is so just cool
That's
and
all.
interesting.
That's also an interesting character beat where he's basically saying, I wasn't as smart as them, so therefore they busted my ego, so I destroyed them. Which
Yeah.
kind of undermines his whole thing, but also is an interesting.
But he is still trying to understand them,
Oh yeah, it's
right?
he just
And he's like, I think I figured it out.
Too
But
late.
unfortunately, I already destroyed them.
He's
Yeah.
prepared now, though,
He's prepared.
just in case.
If they come back.
Yeah, or something similar.
If they had a sister civilization a couple light years away.
Yeah.
That had lost hyperspace travel, but then they regain it and they come back on the scene.
Is this real? Is this part of
I
Or are you
mean,
just making it up?
I mean,
I can't tell.
It could be.
that's the thing is you probably either option is plausible.
It wouldn't be the worst thing ever written in Star Wars books. So
I mean,
maybe their planet jumped into hyperspace and flew away.
Whoa, okay,
No.
now I know you're BSing.
See, I don't know though. I haven't read all the later stuff, but that doesn't sound totally out of the realm of things that like BS that could happen.
Raffo. You just
Wait,
have to
are
read
you-
all 300.
Oh my
Yeah,
god! I'm just gonna Google.
That's how the last Fate of the Jedi book ends, is something like a planet hybrid jumps into Lake Coruscant and it cascades outward and destroys the galaxy.
They'll hold a maneuver with a planet.
we actually found out Coruscant was the third Death Star. And it teleports.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, Rise of Skywalker has some larger butt poles, so
Speaking of planets, though, I did not know I would be so fascinated with Kashyyyk.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When I got to that bit, like, didn't know what to expect, because in the movies they show some stuff, but it's not really a ton. But because of Leia's curiosity, I was curious too, and
Yeah.
the way that she reacts to finding out about how Kashyyyk, like how they built their city, how it all works. That was I was fascinated.
There's some proper sci-fi in there.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Some cool world building. Those giant trees
Mm-hmm.
and the jungle underlayers,
Mm-hmm.
which maybe we'll see more of.
Ooh.
Raffo.
yeah, because she's very cool.
Also, I barely met Salporin, the host.
Yeah.
Wookiee, and I mean, I didn't cry tears, but I was very sad when I found out he died. That was powerful.
It's like, this is his best friend in the world. And like we see like his
Yeah,
friendship
but
with
we're
Han.
told it though.
Yeah, but I think it's used because like Han's like his best friend, and then we kind of like, oh, this guy's here, up much higher, and then it just makes the death a little more sad.
Nah, I found it weak.
Really?
Yep.
Okay,
I thought
I'm more of an empath, and so like Chewbacca's reaction, like how he was handling it,
Oh yeah.
that I was like feeling that.
I'm cold inside.
Yeah, we know this. Okay.
I thought the reunion was touching. The death, I was kind of like
Aww.
not super impacted by.
It was his house, like if he didn't
Yeah.
open
It's
up his
sad.
house to Leia, then he probably would have been fine. But
Yeah,
anyway.
but the problem with that is like we have no counterpoint that like going to Kashyyyk was necessary to save them from the Nogri, because it didn't end up saving them from the Nogri.
Yeah.
Well, okay, they didn't know that. Okay.
No, they didn't know that.
They
But
thought-
they didn't involve dozens and dozens of people in their plan.
Yeah, well.
They
So
could have
this
just
is-
kept flying for a while, right?
That kind of gets to a little what I was saying earlier about the lack of I shouldn't say lack of central narrative, because there is one, but like for the main character, since Thrawn is really the protagonist, they're just reacting to him. So like it's feels somewhat like they're just kind of going to places to go because I guess they're going to places. And I mean, yeah, they have goals to accomplish there, but it's Thrawn's the one who's doing things, and so sometimes like that, like why does where like I said, everything is in reaction to Thrawn, so sometimes it doesn't feel like Han, Luke, and Leia have particularly interesting like motive or reasons for like the specific places they're going to.
They're very much on the back foot for most of the book.
Which makes sense. That's
Yep.
Yeah, like that's what the book is. It's just
They finally get some feet underneath them when they stop the Sluicy attack on the shipyards.
Yeah.
But at what cost?
Yeah.
The fleet. I do think that I do kind of wish that like I didn't feel like the stakes were like super high in that battle. Like I know that like it was like they're fighting over the fleet, and like if they lost the bomb we get a lot of ships. Like I didn't feel like it was like a ton of tension in that, or there was a lot of tension, and Han's plan to use the drills was very cool. Or Lando, the Han Lando plan to use the drills was very cool. But I didn't feel like the stakes were super high. It also a little bit defanged Thrawn a little bit. That he's like this kind of not entirely, because like he does kind of win in every other instance throughout the book, but it's like this was the big thing and it doesn't really work, or it works, but then he kind of gets outsmarted.
Yeah, he doesn't get the benefit that he thought he was going to, which was a big benefit, and it was his like major plan of this book. But as he remarks, he still has other irons in the fire, and those will bear fruit.
He's always planning.
Are there any particular quotes in general that stand out to people?
Spooke, you got one.
I got one. Very early in the book, Luke is talking to Obi-Wan, and there's kind of like this self-reflection from Obi-Wan's point of view that I think is very funny. Basically, it's just Obi-Wan remarking on how he's grown and like his like progress, like relationship with Luke, as he grew to love Luke as a son, a student, and then eventually a friend. The funny part about this is they've only known each other for like a week. Because in the movie, they kind of know each other. He's Uncle Ben. He's just kind of like his dad's friend, essentially. But they only know each other for a week before he dies. And so it's just very, it's a funny remark to make in this book.
Maybe
it doesn't really need to be there.
Attachments really quickly.
Or maybe as Obi-Wan exists as a Force ghost, he's been stalking Luke, you know?
But it could be like that brief period with Obi-Wan was kind of like formative.
Sure.
But yes.
it's just a funny little quote that the first time I read this book didn't stand out to me, but the second time I'm like, wait, we haven't known each other that long.
And their relationship definitely didn't like progress that quickly.
This isn't a YA romance novel. Like, come on.
Oh my god.
I mean, Luke and Yoda, how long did they spend training?
Longer. I think it was a few days, a few weeks, right?
Yeah, a few weeks.
It's like a week maybe.
It was still not very long, is my point.
I think he spent more time with Yoda than he did Obi-Wan.
Yes. Probably. Though probably not at like dinner with his aunt and uncle.
Sure.
But like that's hardly the basis for training a Jedi. Dinner table talk.
Mm-hmm.
Panda, you were gonna
Yeah. Okay. You brought this up, Spooke. Romance novel. I'm gonna read a little something. Abruptly, she looked down again, a determined expression on her face. She turned toward the second barracks building and headed off at a brisk walk. Luke let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. My note: since when did this become a romance novel?
This isn't the enemies to lovers story I want. I want the enemies to lovers stories of C-3PO and R2, not Mara Jade and the...
I'm sorry, they're already married.
they're domestic partners.
Oh my goodness, I could not believe it when I read that line.
I've got a quote.
Yes.
Mhm.
I am fine, Luke assured him. It's like being able to see again after having been blind. Han snorted under his breath. Yeah, I know how that is, he said wryly. I guess you would, Luke looked at him.
That's a funny exchange.
Yeah.
Yep.
The ones I wrote down, I have, and this because this is a direct quote from the movies. I am not a committee from Leia,
Oh yeah.
presumably talking to Han, and I think that I forget who she's referencing, but Leia is sarcastically mistaken, a Jedi Master. And the other one, the Nogri captain that Leia meets, when he says the Emperor would never lie to Vader.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Here's one more thing. So I told you this is my first introduction to Thrawn, and I've been just like waiting to meet this character. So when Peleon is like the first beginning of the book, he's going to Thrawn's like room, whatever. It says a touch of air on the back of his neck was his only warning. Captain Peleon, a deep, gravelly, cat-like voice mewed into his ear.
Yeah.
And I thought that was Thrawn. And I was like, this is not what I was expecting.
Thrawn is Catboy.
Like,
Oh no.
and then I kept reading. I was like, oh, okay, it's not Thrawn. Okay, that makes more sense.
You know, that's also another line from a romance novel too. Maybe not
Deep,
YA.
gravelly voice. Probably not mewed. That's furry territory.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
Or scaly if you're looking at the Nogri.
Also, okay, talking about some like discrepancies, right? There was a part where I think it was like Leia. Yeah, Leia was saying that it was either Leia or Mara Jade, saying that the Emperor and Vader didn't know that Master Yoda existed. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah.
It was Leia. Um,
And Leia didn't know that Yoda existed.
And I just had to pause at that moment. I was like, what the hell? But then realizing, yes, the prequels had not existed yet. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
yes.
The whole book
But
is
also, like, if they'd known that he was on Dagobah, they probably would have destroyed the planet.
Probably,
Yes.
maybe.
Alderaan would not have been the test.
No, Star Destroyers are capable of glassing a planet, which is destroying the surface, just not exploding the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
You fire enough turbo lasers at a planet over a long enough period of time, you can turn the surface to glass.
Mm.
Makes sense.
And that's shown
Read it.
in other media.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I think I know what
You
you're
mean
talking
like a
about.
TV show?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. In general, it's the whole book is fascinating as a prequels sequel.
Yes. The timeline, man.
Yeah,
Is now the time to talk about Dark Jedi versus Sith?
I think it is.
Yeah. Okay. So this is definitely the time when knowledge of everything about the Force and the structures of Jedi and Dark Jedi and Sith is at an all-time low. So the catch-all term that they found for dark side users, which wasn't even dark side users, it was Dark Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something fascinating in the existence of dark-sided energy in Force users, but without any real educational structure on like the history of Force evil.
Mm.
And so we get Jorus, however you want to say to use in the clone's name, Sabaoth, and his like the slightly schizophrenic approach to the Force, because he is this supposed Jedi master, but is clearly going about things the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
He has a god complex.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But he's not full on like devoted to evil though,
No.
like Darth Vader and Palpatine.
No, it's he just has no problem using quote unquote the dark side to achieve his goals.
He's a sociopath with the Force.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be curious because I haven't read much of the other legend stuff, like the extent to which they go into that even after the prequels were released. Do they still use the term dark? Or no, do they use the term dark Jedi, or do they use
Dark?
or is that a spoiler?
There's still two separate categories. So like there are
Yeah.
dark Jedi. There's also like they come up with different terms. Some like generally you have to be like an archaeologist of sorts to become a inheritor of the Sith pathways.
Hmm.
But also you can just be like time capsuled from the Old Republic era and be continuing on.
And
Okay.
I think amongst fans, after at least the prequels, Dark Jedi kind of became its own other thing.
That's
Yep.
my impression,
But I don't think it was ever like what fans thought it was. You know.
Yeah. Dark Jedi is like, oh god, what would I compare it to? I would compare Dark Jedi to like political committees formed by college undergraduates thinking that
Yeah.
thinking that they know things but being deeply mistaken and not having read enough.
Okay.
I feel called out here. Okay. I was part of Model United Nations in college. Thank you. Apparently, I'm a dark Jedi. At least
That's where you
equivalent.
rank.
I'm just saying that the terminology accuracy is about that level.
Mhm.
They're very
Wow.
willing to coin themselves as Dark Jedi and other people as Dark Jedi, but it's like it's really it's a misappropriated term,
Okay, that makes sense.
often misappropriated term.
And I'm pretty sure also, at least in terms of Dark Jedi and Sith was a race.
Yeah,
Were like the original Sith. This is going
like Old
really
Republic,
deep into lore.
like
Before
this,
the Old Republic.
right? Like the
Yeah.
like Sith, well, like the exiled like Sith Empire or what have you.
Yes, and
Yeah.
it was also an empire.
They were a race of like red people with tendrils. It's cool. But yeah.
Whoa. Okay, I did not know
It's a
that.
term that's been the catch-all for the bad guys. It got turned into the catch-all for the bad guys.
And then eventually they introduced the rule of two, which
Yeah.
to a Legends fan is like, what? I feel like I've been reading nothing but exceptions to the rule of two.
Yeah, and then and there's continues to be more.
Yeah, it still is even once it's introduced, but that's partially interesting internally to like the stories, but also funny from a like inconsistent continuity perspective.
There's a rule of two, but then there's also the Inquisitors who.
Well, and all
But
this,
there's also like this guy's backup plan and like this woman's backup plan, and then like
yeah,
they left behind some writings.
yeah. I mean, they all had like apprentices that.
Yep.
Hmm.
And when this one
But no,
died,
yeah.
their ghost stuck around and like tried to possess this other person.
Oh, body position. Yeah, that's a.
Okay, that's new to me.
That's extended.
It's a repeating thing.
It's
Oh,
extended
God.
universe.
Okay.
Kind of started it. Yeah.
This is starting to feel a little like Malazan. Just a
It
little
gets
bit.
a little wild.
No,
I'm
please
gonna
don't
clip
compare this
that.
to
I'm gonna clip that and use that just in places later.
Oh
that'll be
Take it
like a
back.
drop.
I take it
no. Can we put that in the soundboard? This is starting to feel like molasses.
Oh yeah, no, like this is yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna get crucified by both fandoms.
No, this is going to be used to very judiciously for specific people.
Of course, yes.
Watch the Shrek movie.
We haven't really talked about Mara Jade.
Oh,
yeah. Zahn's original character.
Yeah, what the hell? Emperor's Hand
Yeah.
role that, I mean, I get it.
That's definitely following rule of two, right?
Yeah.
But when I first was introduced to this character, I was intrigued. I was curious. Okay, why does this character hate Luke so much? But then it kind of just like that was the only note she had.
Yeah. Well,
So
not the only one. She has another note, which is competence.
okay, that came a bit later. because you don't really get to see much of her competence. It's just the
Oh, no.
hatred at the beginning.
You get to see her set boundaries and have productive negotiation sessions over fine dining. That's her introduction, and
Oh, okay,
I
fair.
think that like that it presents her as an executive, a smuggler, a woman who knows how to succeed at what she wants.
Yeah. Well, it was a little too subtle for me. And I didn't really like start liking her character until they were running around in the forest and then she was like explaining exactly, when she first joined Card and like all this preparation she did, had like his people show her all the different vegetation and figure out what's edible, what's not, and her saving her earnings. And I was like, okay, yeah, she's pretty cool.
Yeah, she is, and Talon Card is pretty cool.
He
Yeah.
is, which we haven't really talked about either.
I think he's fine. I mean, he's yeah, he's fine. He's a vehicle for the other characters to get to do other things.
He's got his two little Vornskers though, Sturm and Drang.
Mhm.
Those are
Come
very cool.
on, he gets points
No.
for those names.
Those are very cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I did like the Luke and Mara Jade in the forest section. Because like any sort of protagonist with the antagonist, but they're not like fighting and they have to work together is usually interesting.
They're gonna bone.
Enemies love it.
They're gonna bone. That's all.
How soon would you place bets on that happening? Would it be in this trilogy? Would it be 13 books down the line, 30 books down the line?
I don't know. I don't know how many books there are with both characters in them.
There's
So-
probably enough.
I don't
is
either.
Probably the answer to that.
I think it's going to be the next book.
I think it'll be towards the end of this
Okay.
trilogy.
Luke
I don't know
having
if they
sex,
actually-
that would be crazy.
I mean, I know boning exists in this world, hence, Leia with twins.
But it happened off screen.
But I don't expect it to be explicit on the page. Okay.
Yeah. Leia's just suddenly pregnant. It just
Yeah.
happened.
Well, just look at
The
me. Yes, historically, this has happened in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, I'm not faulting that. I'm just laughing at it.
All right, we want to move to some listener questions. We've been kind of dipping into this a little bit, but Texas Blade asks, "How sad are y'all that this is no longer canon?"
I haven't read the new books, but honestly, very sad. But I'm just sad in general that New Jedi Order, the Corellian trilogy, and mostly I'm upset at Kylo Ren. If Kylo Ren is the alternative that we got,
Yeah, sure.
I much prefer what happened instead in Legends.
Speaking of whiny boys,
Oh dear.
I personally, I actually talked with friends about this a couple weeks ago. I think there is so much chaff in the Star Wars books that it's like, if you kind of have to get rid of what was good about the Legends books to get rid of what was bad, I'm mostly fine with it. I have read the new trilogy. I
They
think
basically
it's
did that in
wonderful.
Legends anyways. There's just books that no one ever acknowledges in sequels. It's
That
just
nobody
we're
read.
gonna pretend this
That's
never happened.
that's what J.J. Abrams did too.
But no, I think there was so much there that it's hard to continue on with the series without, oh, sorry, we forgot about this one thing
Yeah,
that we have to reference now. I think the sad part is we lost a lot of the good stuff, but I understand the decision that they made and why that they made it. I do recommend the new Thrawn trilogy, though. It is really good. It's kind of a companion to the Rebels show, and it's the main focus is Thrawn, so that is the character that you're watching the entire time too. So
Okay.
I've heard it's pretty good.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm mostly with Kip on this question, where I'm very sad that this is no longer canon. My high level view on this is that it's better that we're getting new Star Wars than that we're not. Even if I think most of the Disney stuff has been mediocre with like a few bright spots of brilliance. I'm mostly also not interested in the new canon books, although I've heard the High Republic stuff is.
It's great.
I've heard that a lot of that's pretty good. Which so at some point I might read that. Although I'm probably more inclined to read like some of the new Jedi Order stuff before that, just because I want the wild stuff that happens after this. But yeah, even if a lot of it shouldn't exist, but
Yeah, I felt a strong attachment to the Solo family, and every change that the new trilogy did to that was not something that I enjoyed.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a difference between you and I, because I never really read these books. So I'm like, hey, Kylo Ren is my Solo.
Oh, I
So
see.
that may be why I feel the way that I do, is I just don't have that attachment.
I think that I wouldn't care as much if the sequel trilogy actually felt like a trilogy and that there was any sort of plan from the beginning, because that's the fundamental problem with it, is that there really wasn't any plan.
Like, I read dozens of books about the kids,
Sure.
I see. Okay,
and a lot of it was good.
that's fair.
It's
I think-
some of the like strongest Star Wars books, in my opinion, are about the kids.
Interesting.
See, that gets me excited. So, in terms of like, am I sad that it's no longer canon? To me, what is canon, honestly? And especially if you're like more like a comics reader, things change so much all the time with the arcs, and like they get rebooted, and there are different versions. So I just choose to enjoy the plot lines and versions of the characters that I like. And to me, that's what's in my head. And, there could be more official versions out there, but they're just a different version. And so I am really intrigued about the twins. Kylo Ren I'm not like super attached to him. Honestly,
Even though he looks hot shirtless.
I would say he's not that interesting to me.
I agree.
Yes, he has bulk and muscle, but him as a character I don't know.
He
Doesn't
does
do it.
have an interesting dynamic with Rey, but
Yeah. I mean, I find Rey more interesting. The way that the Solos ended up in the sequel movies, like if there's a different version that is better, I will hook on to that one. Yeah.
I think in general how you phrased it, as far as you're choosing the versions of the characters that you like, and that as kind of your source of truth, so to speak. I think that is a very smart way to go about consuming any sort of Star Wars media. I say that kind of jokingly, but also that's the debates and arguments are fun, but like really none of it really matters, and it's just read or watch or play the stuff you like. And
It's all a distraction from life.
Yeah, if you want the space battles, you read the X-Wing series. It's a very simple process. And if you want the politics, you if you want anything, you stay away from the Crystal Star.
If you want the politics, read. If you want the politics, read Darth Plagueis, because that's the actual interesting politics.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why I even got interested in reading Star Wars is because I saw this video by some huge Star Wars fan on YouTube, and he explained how the novelization of Revenge of the Sith is really good, and it provides a lot of depth.
I didn't know Drew had a YouTube.
Yeah, that's true. That's just Drew talking.
It wasn't true. But that got me really intrigued, and like in his video he included like an excerpt from like Anakin's point of view, and I think Padme's point of view and stuff, and I was like, oh, there's like actually good Star Wars books out there.
Yeah.
Now I want to try it. So there you go.
It's just like Star Trek. You got to find and pick the good ones.
And sometimes you get Red Harvest, which
is that the horror one?
Yeah, it's the zombie one.
Yeah, there's a zombie one. Yeah.
It's not good. It's not good.
Is that Star Trek? Is that what you're talking
No, that's Star Wars.
That's Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's bad.
Wait, there is a zombie Star Wars?
Yeah, I don't recommend
There's more
it.
than one.
There's a few.
Okay.
I think the Red Harvest is its own trilogy too.
Oh no.
Interesting.
So we have a question from Era. Were you familiar with Timothy Zahn's other books before Star Wars? Did you ever go back and read them?
Not at all, and no.
Nope.
Same.
I walked into a bookstore once where I saw Timothy Zahn and I went, "Oh, a Star Wars book," and it was one of his own. And I put it back. I don't want to put him into the hole of like write Star Wars and only Star Wars, but I haven't been interested in anything else that he's written. So
I didn't know he had other books until reading his bio. When reading this book, I am curious to try out some of his other stuff. But based on like
This
I
one.
don't know, no, based on Kip's reaction, I don't have high expectations for the other stuff.
I don't know. I'd hope that he felt less constrained in his own original universes.
Yeah.
I would hope that his own stuff is better, but I haven't gone to figure that out because.
Okay. I thought you had read some.
No.
Oh, okay. Maybe we should try it. Maybe like after this trilogy, we should actually try one of his other things.
Maybe.
Find the one with the best reviews and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, let's try it."
His editor,
He's got a lot. He's got a lot of books.
His editor, like, she really saw what he could do and like thought he would be a good fit for this book. So there must be something there in his other works.
I think they wanted to make sure that a Splinter of a Mind's Eye was not repeated.
Now that I would be interested in doing an episode on purely just for what it is.
I am so
and
curious
it's-
now.
Yeah, like that.
I would rather do True Sepultura.
Okay.
We could do a double feature.
We get to see where Luke is at his like most compassionate
Okay.
and a little naive and a little shirtless.
nice.
A little shirtless.
Interesting. I don't really have the hots for Luke, so that's not really intriguing. Like,
Oh no, but I think
that's
it's
not the
funny.
point. Oh, okay, all right, got it. Next question.
It is funny how much it turns into a romance novel of sorts.
Oh dear. Okay, just an aside. I have a friend who decided it would be a good idea to run an experiment on somebody who has never seen any Star Wars or read any Star Wars. My friend had that person start watching Star Wars from episode 1. And
Okay.
she thought it was a love story. She thought Star Wars was a love story, and she was rooting for Padme and Anakin. And I was like, well, she's going to have a rude awakening.
I mean, it is a love story.
George
not a
Lucas,
good one.
They have a love story song.
that's what George Lucas wrote.
Yeah, except when you then get to 4, 5, and 6, and it's like, it's a very different vibe.
It's just the dark part of the love story.
Sure.
But there's still a love story in there, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now it's sibling love.
And we're back.
Yes, we have come full circle, just like the Force.
Oh, Return of the Jedi.
All right. So Soul asks, how would each person on the episode try to combat / outwit Thrawn if they were in the Star Wars universe?
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Run away.
Yeah, I would choose someone that I trusted to actually come up with a plan and to not tell me what the plan was. And then I would act like I was enacting my own plan as a feint and then hope and just pray that Thrawn thought that I was still his main opponent. But like knowing him, he probably would have studied, I don't know, whatever my version of art is.
You're the
and,
person
like,
who gets someone to be a proxy
yes,
for that.
Exactly. So
She'll sacrifice a TIE fighter to see which strategy they employ. He has chosen this style of art.
Yes.
My plan is because Thrawn's greatest weakness is that he's a fictional character, so I would bribe the author to write me beating him in a battle. I think that's the only way to win, but you know, that's my plan.
That approach I'm on board with. Yes. And actually they apparently had like charity auction or something And there are a few characters in this book that were based off of like some winners of that charity auction.
Cool.
And it's actually really interesting. I'll snapshot the story about that and send it to the group.
No, that's pretty fun.
Yeah. So your approach could work.
Just have to pay him enough.
Yeah.
No. Run away to a place where he literally can't follow me before he dies his natural lifespan.
What is his natural lifespan?
I don't know. So run away forever.
80 years.
I think it's longer than that.
He was somewhere and now he's here. All I have to do is go somewhere.
What is his species?
Chiss.
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 Chiss. Okay.
And their glowing eyes.
I did not
Glowing
know
red
about.
eyes.
I did not know about the red eyes. Before I read this book. That's quite something.
I mean, the species is introduced in this book.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even like pay attention to like images or like art of this character.
Yeah. One of the big things about Thrawn is that he is a non-human at the top of the Imperial hierarchy.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why he was also shoved off to the side.
Right.
Yep.
That's why he was conveniently not there.
Yeah. Not part of the original trilogy.
But now he's back.
No, he's back. Yeah, I'm actually really excited to see the new stuff with him in it. But I gotta catch up with all the stuff before it. So then, yeah, anyway.
How curious are you about Mount Tantis, Panda?
0. I'm like, I mean, at the end of the book, he says, like, oh, don't worry, we have Mount Tantis. I'm like, okay.
It's like, what happened there, you know?
Maybe we'll find out.
Here's hoping, you know, that doesn't get dropped later on.
What do you think Thrawn is doing with the Ysalamiri?
Well, I'm assuming he's like trying to amplify their effects even bigger than they have naturally. Maybe he's trying to clone them so then he can just have an endless supply. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. That invention for this book did feel a bit cheap. Just a bit.
That's actually one of my favorite things in the book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like,
Huh.
I mean, it just because it is kind of like I see why it's a little bit cheap, but I like it as a device that levels the playing field against Jedi.
Fair.
Or people that can use the Force.
I don't like it in the fact that the Force is supposed to be everything and everywhere and all life, and it's just not this planet.
And
that's fair.
This one
creature.
species.
That's fair.
Yeah. Just not this one species and the planet that it's on. Nope, they're removed from the Force. They pushed it back. How? No one knows. They they evolved it.
Plot convenience, which is, I think, the name of the game in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like,
And Star
why?
Wars.
Like, why would they have evolved?
They
with
actually
this
do
as a-
explain that. Not quite yet, though. There's been
Oh,
hints.
okay, all right. I will wait and see.
There's been hints in this book, but if you haven't caught it, then you haven't caught it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that wasn't the most interesting part for me. So.
It's also not super consistent, honestly.
Even better.
That's Star Wars.
Yes, that is Star Wars.
Inconsistency is consistent. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually.
Nat asks, do you think Thrawn is hot?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
One of the things that I find very attractive
Is a white uniform?
competence. No. It's competence. And he is very competent. So I'm not really into the red eyes.
But they glow. They could be a nightlight.
I think I would freak out if I saw them at night. But his competence, his mind, and the way that he carries out his plan. Yes, that is very attractive. But I'm not looking to bang him.
I don't know. I think glowing red eyes are hot.
Well, to each their own.
I don't have an opinion on the eyes. I don't really have an opinion on this. I guess sure. I did hear Lars Mikkelsen's voice whenever Thrawn has dialogue, and that was a boon to the job that he's doing portraying him.
It's interesting. It's interesting that you say that because I've listened to the Thrawn books. The narrator's voice is my voice of Thrawn. So when I saw Lars Mikkelsen speak as Thrawn, I'm like, that's not Thrawn. Or every other time that it isn't the narrator of these books speaking as Thrawn, I'm like, that's not him.
Though I will say, there is a Chiss character that comes up later in the new Jedi Order books that is much hotter, in my opinion.
Oh, interesting. Are they more competent?
At some things.
Oh.
Okay.
They're not a Grand Admiral, but they have another job, and they're very good at that one.
Oh, okay.
I wonder what that job is.
I don't know. But okay.
I mean, they're in enough books that they actually go through a couple jobs, and they're good at all of them. So yay.
I don't know if these are like euphemisms or anything.
I don't know either.
Well, I think that's what makes it good.
Half of Star Wars could be either taken as euphemisms or not. like taken given, pretty much any of it. Like,
anything with lightsaber probably.
Like half the characters in Star Wars, he is excellent at ship combat.
Oh, okay, all right. With like relationship combat. Just kidding.
Oh, he's the relationship counselor that Luke and Mara Jade hire. Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
Maybe Leia and Han as well.
Yeah. He is involved in a love triangle. It is interesting.
Huh. All right.
I don't know if he's my pick though. I'm still torn.
It's okay. You got time to think about it. Next episode.
Well, does anyone have any other unaired thoughts? Anything else?
Huron fan did ask, how did they manage to make a spin-off book so much more interesting than the movie series is based on?
George Lucas wasn't in charge of it.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's more just the medium and what they wanted to accomplish with the medium. Like with the Star Wars movies, especially the originals, it's definitely like he was just more interested in the visuals. And the story was like cool and fun, but really it's to be able to show off the visuals.
And the Joseph Campbell monomyth stuff. But yeah.
And I think kind of going off that point is it tells a smaller story than the original trilogy as a whole, but that works because we get to spend more time with these characters. So we get more depth. We're not running from place to place. We get to see how they interact.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, why it works so well.
And it's building on something, right? Whereas like the original trilogy had to try to establish this whole universe and get people bought into it. And now it's like, well, okay, we could just take a slice of this and dive deeper.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has, certainly compared to the sequels, it has something that it does have something it's trying to say, and there is an arc.
I think you guys hit it on the head. When you don't have visuals to fall back on, you have to actually make an interesting dialogue. And I do think that it threads multiple points of view better and like disconnected character locations.
I was actually kind of impressed with how well he like shared page time for the different characters. I mean, it's not like a ton of characters, but we got to spend time, quite a bit of time with each of the main ones. So that was nice.
Yep. And we consistently kept up on one Imperial officer, which I think helped quite a bit.
Yeah.
And there was no Vader chewing the scenery.
I am curious if I will like Vader as a character in the books versus Thrawn as a character in the books. That's something that I am curious to explore.
I believe there's one book called Lords of the Sith that follows Vader, and it's sick. He's a superhero villain type. Like that's how powerful he is in it. It's cool.
I've heard he gets like some of his feats in like the comics and stuff are like absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, he's real powerful.
Nice.
like it's really unfortunate that the films don't
Mhm.
show a lot of the Jedi
Oh.
abilities that are more physical.
Yep.
Because CGI was so bad back then that like they weren't gonna really show all of the force pushing
Yeah.
and pulling that a
Okay.
character could do in combat.
That makes sense. Because I'll be honest with you, the Vader in the original series, I'm like, this was probably cool when the movies first came out. But
Careful.
watching it now,
Yeah. I mean, just all that plastic. Plastic was
And
so
I
new
think that's
back
why they
then.
had the scenes of him being so ruthless, was to establish him as a bad guy
And James
Yeah.
Earl Jo- and
and
James
serious.
Earl
And yeah,
and the voice. Oh my gosh, the
Yeah.
voice.
the voice is, yes,
the
very
voice. The
iconic.
voice does a lot of work.
like the most iconic voice
Yeah.
across everything.
Cool.
Cool. Any other burning thoughts?
Thank you for letting a newbie come on this journey with you.
It is great having a newbie
Fun.
on the journey.
Yeah. Now, are we going to get to Era's question, or are we going to save that for a spoiler
That
episode?
might be. Yeah, I
for a
was.
spoiler section.
Yeah, I figured that might be better for like towards the end of the trilogy, maybe when we
Oh,
have
yeah.
more.
Okay.
like
Okay.
a
Cool.
more
We can do that then.
full. I mean, we can do more full.
Establish Thrawn as a character more than this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the question in question is ranking Thrawn amongst the Star Wars villains, which honestly, I would have to pick at my brain and be like, what were all the villains again? Other than the
question.
main ones, Palpatine and Vader.
Yeah, Boba Fett.
Is he a villain?
He's an
Disney
antagonist.
doesn't want him to be.
That's true.
Disney is his villain, but that's a soapbox I'm not going to go on right now.
Is that a spoiler?
Disney's his villain?
No. The Boba Fett is not a villain.
No, because like in the original trilogy, he's to the extent that any of the bounty hunters are villains as a whole.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're just getting paid to do a job. Is that a
Alright.
villain?
He's an antagonist in the
Yeah.
original trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not really a villain.
I agree. Like Grievous and Maul would be villains.
Yes.
Jabba was a villain.
Jabba.
Jabba's a villain. Yeah.
The slaver in the first movie villain. I don't remember his name.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Watto.
Yeah, Watto. Villain.
Yeah.
I hesitate to call him a slaver. He was a person who owned slaves, but like he didn't deal in slaves. He was like a maintenance / repair guy. He was like a scrap dealer.
He was a benefactor of the slave system.
He like his primary occupation was in scrap.
Fair. So much more to talk about after we read the next book.
Oh yeah.
I hope.
Who knows? Maybe Leia will give birth. Maybe we'll do a time skip 5
I wanna
years.
see-
No.
No, she needs plot armor for a little bit longer.
Timothy Zahn writing a birthing scene would be very.
It'll just happen off screen.
I don't think we're going to get details, really.
Han's reaction to
Luke goes into a
Yeah,
coma and shares the
contrary-
experience with her.
Oh no!
Actually, now I am curious how
And it's
he
also
would
so it's
feel.
Han and Luke's point of view of Leia giving birth.
Which is probably a viewpoint
And
he
Han,
knows how to
Han's
write.
like,
Right,
Leia,
that's
can
what
you
I was
speed
gonna
this
say,
up? We're running from Imperial.
And she'll shout something angrily at him.
He was just going into hyperspace to help push a little more.
I don't think that's how that works, but okay.
Can you make this rust bucket go any faster?
No!
My gosh.
And that's staying in.
And on that note,
Yeah, actually, on that note, I guess.
On Millennium Falcon sacrilege, we end.
Yeah, lots more fun stuff to discuss. But yeah, so that concludes our discussion on Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. Join us on the Legendarium Discord, the self-styled friendliest place on the internet, for more discussion. I'm Stormrunner with Kyptan, BefuddledPanda, and Spooke. Thanks to the Legendarium podcast, Horizon Brave, and Jingle Punks for the intro and outro music. And thanks for listening.
Bye.
bye.
Goodbye.